I met Clayton down Music House. He was always like saying, "Do you want to cut this track? Do you want to cut this track?" And like I went through a phase where I was playing more musical stuff, so it really wasn't me at the time. Then me and Ink collaborated on a track called Airlock, which we did for the Renegade Hardware album, which was, I can't even remember the name of that album. I think it was Armageddon. And then I've done a solo track on there called Vortex as well as doing a collaboration with Usual Suspects, which was Keaton. One half was Keaton at the time with a track called Stalker. So I did about 3 tracks like in the space of 1 year, which all came out on Hardware, and that's how the link came. I did a first solo track that was called Vortex, a journey into my madness. Because at the time I was going through a lot of madness. Like I used to get angry quite a lot, very easily, and that was just, I wanted to go in and do something that was kind of sci-fi and angry at the same time. I like those dark kind of themes. I'm a person who like, I'm a fan of like film soundtracks. When a film comes out and it's got a nice orchestral soundtrack and it's like a nice piece of composed music, I'm in it. I'm in the deep violins. I'm in where it takes you. It's like it takes you on a journey. To me, when I'm making a tune, I feel like I'm a director. Like I'm trying to make my own mini movie. I can't make a film, so my way of doing it is I make my musical film. What I see with Hardware is it's like we have a little crew and we try and keep it within that crew, so we've got more of an identity kind of thing. So when you go to Hardware, you know it's not just any old person kind of thing, so people can relate to what sound is going on because you know who the artist is going to be and that kind of stuff. I think it's one of them rare labels where I know everybody knows each other in the scene, but Hardware, we all actually hang around with each other, like we go out together and stuff like that when we're not working and things like that. So I think that's what separates us to a lot of other labels. For people who don't know the Renegade Hardware sound, I would say that the Renegade Hardware sound is all about cutting edge beats, man. So we used to just go down there for a studio session and we'd be sitting there like in the middle of the tune making a tune, then someone would just pop out from underneath the mixing desk because they'd be sleeping there from the night before in the studio. That happened a few times, so I think everybody slept in the studio at some point in Hardware after a long night's work. Like Renegade Hardware tunes, I think if you interview a lot of people, you'll find that everybody's got a Hardware tune in their box at some point or another. You can't really go without having a Hardware tune in your box. Clayton and Mark run the label, but like Renegade Hardware is just not 2 people, it's all of us combined. We all like do our bit. So yeah, it felt like we won, like our team, like a football team, when they win something, we all won it, whether you were on the bench or not. I mean, we're all part of it. So I'm definitely proud, and I just think it's long overdue.
I was always like doing residency DJing like in Bournemouth and the South Coast, Southampton, places like that. And then when I moved to Kingston at like 18, I started making some music with 2 other people, and we formed the name The Usual Suspects, and we made the track Killer Bees, which was literally our first track we made. That was like 98, and Loxy was a friend of mine, just who I've met from going to Metalheads every week, and he passed it on to Clayton, and Clayton was like, I want to put this out as a 12 on Renegade Hardware, and straight away we just bonded, and the relationship has stayed firm since then. You know, I've been working with Universal Project, another project we started, and we work closely with Clayton, and then this year I've gone on to just become a solo artist, just working predominantly as Keaton. Killer Bees was just a tune that we did one night, had a really good vibe, and then by the time we'd finished it, we were sick to death of it, and we were like, no one's gonna like this. And I just remember being at Notting Hill Carnival that year, and like everyone came on and played it, like Ed Rush and Optical, and from the likes of Zinc and Hype and Andy C and Ray Keith, and just, it was kind of a tune that, although it was quite a simple techno tune, it really appealed to the masses. I'd say 99 to 2001 was probably most significant As Usual Suspects, the work we did with Stalker, with Loxy and Spawn, and you know, the remixes we did, and Doorway and all those tunes. And then we kind of like came with The Craft, this Universal project that was me working with the other crew. And then, I don't know, this year's been significant with me like remixing Twist 'Em Out, Dillinger's tune, and doing my solo Invisible Man EP. If I was to sum up the mood of the music, it would be quite angry and definitely dark. It's definitely angry music. And trying to push the boundaries of the technology to make stuff where, you know, you hear a drum and bass tune and it would be like something where you'd be like, I've never heard a piece of music that sounds like that. Yeah, you know, I might be really, really, you know, angry about what's going on in my personal life or something, and rather than taking it out on other people, it's a good way of like fueling your emotions, like going in the studio and kind of just, you know, playing in a really angry Reese line, or really, you know, getting a nice distorted sub sound and just kind of like letting it out, you know. That's the beauty of it, going in the studio, making a piece of music and putting all your emotion and feeling and soul into it, and then going onto the decks, say that Friday at the rave, and playing it and giving out what you've given into that music. People can feel it back and just get loose to it, you know, let all their tension out and really feel that music. At the studio itself, Renegade Hardware, which is where we did the old Usual Suspect stuff, Killer Bees and Spawn, you know what, I'd actually say I've got bad memories. It was very stressful. It's like being down there in that basement with like no natural light, no natural air. You know, it can become very stressful when you do like long 12-hour sessions. So, but I definitely think it did create a feeling in the music, and that's why those tunes had that sound, you know what I mean? I'm so proud and to be honest, very surprised, you know, because I think if you checked on sales and stuff, I don't know how we do so well compared to the other big labels. For us to get the respect and to win that award and to be voted by the fans, that especially after all this time, you know, I've been involved in a label for like 5 years now, label's been running for 10 years, that just means so much to all of us, you know.
I met Clayton at Music House, a place called Music House. I was just sitting down there waiting for a dub plate, as you do down at Music House, waiting for hours. And Clayton happened to be sitting down there. He mentioned that he really liked a tune by the Architects. He actually said Architects at the time. So I was like, yeah, you feeling that tune? Because that's us basically. And then from there, we just met from there, and he wanted us to do some stuff for the label. The first track I did for Clayton on Renegade Hardware was a track called Airlock. I just wanted to get a track out on the label. You know, it was a prestigious label. You had all the best artists on there. All the buzz was about Renegade Hardware. A lot of other people were falling off. A lot of people, you know, had disappeared from the game. But Renegade Hardware had been consistent, and they had built up this really big sort of reputation worldwide. There's been a lot of big tunes for me, you know, especially in the US. Tracks like Mirage, which was a sort of a breakbeat. I wanted to take it on an old acid sort of ride, so it seemed to work. A lot of people feeling that slowed down in the middle and stuff like that. That was one of the few tracks that did that at the time. Definitely one of the biggest tracks in terms of airplay and in terms of popularity was a track called Need You, which had like a massive vocal in it, you know, old school vocal, which, you know, a lot of people could relate to, and the girls were loving that, so it's always good to bring the girls into the phase, you know. When we play our DJ sets, when I say we, I'm talking about me and Loxy in particular, from the Metalheads days to the early Renegade Hardware events at the end, we always try and take people on a journey. A lot of people, you know, like to categorize us as being dark and stuff like that, but realistically it's just a soundscape, you know. Mood music, if you can call it that, you know. Renegade Hardware Studios is really developed, and I'm not talking about the decor, because when you go down there, it's an old school shop, old school mobile phone shop, I think it was. You don't really expect much. Then you walk in, and then you've just got this office environment, people buzzing around, lots of business happening. That's one thing about Renegade Hardware and the TLV company. When it comes to the business side of things, in the drum and bass scene, they are one of the best. They always deal with the business side of things as well as the street side of things. At the end of the day, the majority of the breaks that do come out on Renegade Hardware, especially the stuff that we're releasing and the Four Horsemen, i.e. Keaton, Dylan, myself, Loxy are releasing, is B-boy breaks. That's what it's always been about, you know. Finally, recognition has come down on the boys, you know, because they've been working hard. You know, you look from year to year, they've always been there, consistent, plugging away, work, and finally it's paid off. They come away with 2 awards yesterday.
Like Clayton was just like taking tunes. He was like one of the first sort of labels that I was giving tunes to. So
he's been doing stuff for Stacker. So Stacker and KT have been doing stuff for TOV.
Yeah, we had a couple of tunes on TOV
And,
about 4 or 5 years ago probably now.
And Friction and New Balance, myself and Ed, we've been doing stuff. So we've been working for him since about '96. But
Yeah.
we've only just sort of put this project together in the last couple of years.
It's just basically, the whole militia thing is basically like something where we can all get in the studio and work together.
We all have a slightly different take on it. I guess Ed's, because he's, you know, spends a lot of time DJing, is kind of dance floor orientated. Ali is Mr. Production, so he spends a lot of time thinking about the sound and all that kind of stuff. And I guess I'm just kind of a bit of an ideas man in the studio, so the three of us together, that's kind of how it gels.
Yeah,
So
I mean, we can all
We can
make
take
tunes
it.
on our own, which is a good thing, so we can all communicate to each other.
You can get kind of like Loxy and Inks tunes that might be a little bit more rugged, just, you know, more breaks kind of thing, or Dylan, people like that. Whereas us guys, when we work as a militia, will probably come through and do something a little bit more synthy, sort of tech edge sort of thing, but still hard, you know, keep it hard and hard dance floor
I think
basically.
a lot of labels are hard, but hardware is still
It keeps the
aimed
vibe
at-
on the dance floor,
yeah,
doesn't it? Yeah.
aimed at the
True.
ravers, definitely.
The first tune that we had on Hardware is the Paranoia tune, which came out about a year ago now, is it? Is it as long as that?
About 6 months.
6 months ago. It was kind of dance floor, quite a hard dance floor track. Seemed to work quite well in the clubs and got picked up and got quite a lot of love from some of the DJs out there.
I don't know, it's just more like connoisseur kind of vibe in there, and people want to hear. People don't. At the same time, they want to hear some tunes they know so they can dance, and there's a part of the crowd that might even just be into that kind of thing. But you can kind of, it's almost like you can test newer tunes out.
Yeah,
and
you can get
people
away.
appreciate it, you know.
You can get away with it down there where you might not be able to get away with playing a certain type of tune to a certain type of crowd somewhere else. So I think everyone plays slightly differently. You can experiment a bit more.
Certain tunes down there, I remember there was things before that, like a couple of our tunes that we've all done, a couple of mine, certain times I've gone down there and played and like just dropped something that we might have finished a couple of days before, and like if it goes off, you know, it's not going to be a thing where if people ain't heard it, if it's bad and people like it.
But it does sound like a bit of a cliche, but basically it's a bit of a family thing going on at Hardware, and you know, they brought a lot of people through, and it's fantastic for us to be associated with Hardware now, the #1 label.
Yeah.
You know,
I think it's a lot to do as well with the people that run Hardware aren't actually DJs or making tracks themselves, so they've got a lot more time to concentrate on stuff like this, DVDs, keeping artists happy, putting on good nights, rather than a lot of labels these days are run by DJs, stroke producers that they've got to be in their studios, you know, every day to make tunes, you know what I mean?
When I first heard Hardware was #1, Flash Gordon it was, I think it's called Flash Gordon?
Yeah.
But that was it. From one, I thought, yeah, that's alright. Then the next one come about, yeah. Then I thought that was my best label. I mean, from when I was younger. So then to put a track out on there, it was just like, yeah, do you know what I'm saying?
Quantum Mechanics as well. I'm feeling Quantum Mechanics, and what was the other one after that? The one the Suspects were on. Quantum Mechanics was probably the first album from Hardware that I heard. I was like, yeah, definitely.
Hardware's always been like up there for me, for labels. From day one, really.
Like when we made The Craft, and then Clayton rang us up in it, and then we just went in, had a meeting with him, and then like we were just like, yeah, you know what I mean, have a tune on Hardware, that's the one. So yeah, The Craft, it was like a, I don't know, it was a dark kind of techno-y, like really, you know, yeah, two-step breaks. Yeah, I don't know, we were on the vibe. We just like, that was with the original four with Keaton, Nitrox, myself, and Rocksmith, and. Yeah, I don't know, how else would you describe it, man?
Some black techno. Breaks and like old school, kind of old school, new school mixed together kind of sound.
Yeah, like
you know
big breaks, little techno flung in, raga B lines, yeah, old school stabs and just
old school
big mishmash
versus new school.
Yeah.
That's what I'd say.
Yeah.
That's how we kind of combine it and compress it all together, and then you've got Universal Projects.
The dark,
I'd say it's
the
like hard way.
Like, you don't really get no darker, but you don't really get no harder. That's it.
Hardware and tech.
I just know whenever like you hear, you know, Hardware tunes like at the end, say, man, they've always got, you know, I mean, like, I don't know, they always just sound heavy,
Noisy.
you know what I mean? Yeah, you get the breakdown, and then when it drops,
Intro,
you're feeling
breakdown,
it.
drop, hold
You know
down.
you're moving.
Beat line.
Yeah.
You know you're rolling.
Mm.
You know you're moving. Dance floor smashes, isn't it?
Mm.
You know what I'm saying?
Mm.
Oh yeah, dance floor smashes. That's what it's all about, really. Dance floor smashes. You know what I mean? Those are the records that sell.
I went back and everybody was like, right, you got to tune out on Renegade Hardware, man. How'd you do that? You know, I mean, that's like, I mean, over there, that's one of the big, you know, it's up there with Ram and Virus, and you know what I mean. That's like, yeah, massive label.
Yeah,
man.
the top three.
Yeah, definitely.
I think a few people were sort of shocked that something like that would come out of a country like Australia, because even though people have been touring there for years and there's been, you know, wicked parties over the years, I don't think musically it's really had anything to show itself for on the drum and bass side of things. There hasn't been many producers who have got any releases or whatnot. I mean, other than say in the last 3 years, the only one I could think of off the top of my head was saying that Atom 1 released on Formation, which was in like '96, so it'd been a while, you know, between then and between when Greg Packer got picked up and then we popped up and, you know, sort of blew a few people away with our first few tunes. So then to move over here was crazy, because I was meeting people that I'd been buying records produced by and playing these people's tunes for years, and just on a different level, you know, rather than just talking to them on the net or whatnot. So we were welcomed over here pretty much straight away, which was good. I don't think a few people knew how to take us being Aussies. They weren't quite sure, because I think most of the Aussies that are in England are all just, you know, backpackers and people like that, so that's just not the vibe that we came over with. We came to bring the beats, basically, so people have been cool. I've really enjoyed myself over here, and I'm quite enjoying living here now. Everyone's been really good to us, and looking forward to sort of, I guess, showing some people what we can do in the next few months, and, you know, dropping some more tunes and sort of just fitting into the scene, I guess. It's nice to be welcomed. You've basically got the who's who of drum and bass dance floor wise on this LP. Hardware absolutely just murdered the Knowledge Awards, took out 2 awards, you know, label and event, and with us on there, with, you know, taking out the single of the year. So our production work is obviously, there's a few people who'll be looking to see what's next, sort of thing, you know, and having Friction involved with you know, with Hardware as well. He's a big boy now, and definitely no newcomer, as much as people keep saying he is. That man's done his trade, you know, he's done his apprenticeship, he's absolutely up there. So I think it's going to be a big project. He's this absolute hardcore, he's from the same background as us, you know, he's into a lot of hardcore bands, you know, like New York hardcore sort of sound, not like electronic hardcore, I'm talking like proper metal hardcore, so he brings that vibe to his tunes. So it looks like it's going to be a real heavy compilation there with some dark sounds, which is what people like, and it's what we want to hear.
Up I had with Renegade Hardware was a few years ago. Me and my mate looked in Yellow Pages. We saw a studio on the Mix Lab Studios. When I looked, it was Renegade Hardware, and they was more or less, I think, just getting themselves on their feet. And it was at the time Future Forces, Jason Maldini, who's BC now, and Darren Deepridge, Just Jungle, and DJ Red, all those guys. So I looked up with those guys, and all those guys really taught me what I know now. I thought Clayton was shady when I first met him. But you know, first time I met Clayton was we had to pay him for a session. I just saw this guy standing at the front of the shutters and asked me for the money. Then I had to come back to the session the next day. It was on the Quantum Mechanics CD, and it was on the Future Forces mix CD called Dark Light Conflict that I done, and that was the second ever track I ever made. If I describe my sound, I would describe it as, to me, I call it dark side soul. You know, I would say I try to keep it intense, but with a soul edge. You know, and try to keep it dance floor orientated, and make sure, you know, that people are feeling it, really. I think, like, there's different levels of drum and bass. If you're first getting into it, you go out and you listen to the stuff what every DJ's playing, the top 10. But if you're starting to get into music, you start to get deeper and deeper. So that means, you know, you start going into listening to different sounds. And I think that part of the drum and bass is more for connoisseurs, people who've been listening to it, or, you know, people who are really into it. That's for the hardcore heads, really.